I thought I was going to have a day where I didn't have to start the show with saying the words Jack Smith. But these producers all around me said, Logan, we have to say Jack Smith. You say it 3 times like Beetlejuice. You do 3 shows in a row, and he appears.
Before Congress.
What he wants to do. You see, you beat me to it.
Sorry, I stole your joke.
That is what Jack Smith wants to do. As you may remember yesterday, and Will, you can kind of brief everyone, old Jimmy Jordan, he said, you know what? I think it's time we hear from the man himself, but let's do it behind closed doors. We'll release the transcripts, all of that. Let's make this a serious discussion. Hold on. Jack Smith says, I'll show up, but I want to do this in front of those cameras. I want to make this a spectacle. And you know what? As much as it's political and as much as it's hacky and as much as I think that this is how you avoid actually having to answer a lot of the big questions, I kind of want to see it. And it's going to give us a lot of content to talk about on this show. It's going to give us some new sound bites. You know, I think as a producer like you do, that there are some benefits to this for us, but maybe not for the American people.
And for accountability, that's right. So what we have here is a response from the attorneys representing Jack Smith, and this is addressed to both Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley is famous for his oversight going after the Department of Justice a lot of times because he has a very soft spot for whistleblowers. He has made his whole career about protecting whistleblowers and getting accountability in the federal government. And this is a response to the request that was made last week by Jim Jordan to the former special counsel, Jack Smith, to appear in a transcribed interview.
So how does that typically work? Behind closed doors?
Yeah, a little bit less formal than a deposition, but more like a deposition because it's called a transcribed interview. There's more room to negotiate what the topics are, the parameters, things of that nature. It's a little bit less formal, but it also tends to be a more serious investigative step. It's one stop before a full deposition. If you ask for that, you're not going forward with a subpoena yet, which they had not done. So we've been waiting to kind of see what the Jack Smith response would be, and now we have it. And I actually think for his attorneys and for Jack Smith, it's a very clever response. One, they're already starting to lay out, giving themselves kind of some roadblocks to the congressional oversight by saying that he's prepared to answer questions about the special counsel's investigation and prosecution, but requires assurance from the Department of Justice he will not be punished for doing so. He's no longer a member of the government, no longer special counsel. So he's saying, you can't punish me if I come talk to you. He also needs guidance from the DOJ regarding federal grand jury secrecy requirements and authorization on matters he may speak to regarding things, among which is Volume 2 of the final report, which is not publicly available. He also, in addition to provide full and accurate answers to the answers of Congress, the questions of Congress, Mr. Smith requires access to the special counsel files, which he no longer has ability to access. So already starting to build this like, hey, I need assurances from DOJ. I need the permission from DOJ. I need access to all my old stuff if you really want me to. So already putting a burden on Congress and the government. But then here's how it ends it. With the guidance and access described above, Mr. Smith is available to testify in an open hearing at your earliest convenience. So not what Jim Jordan was asking for, but kind of flipping the script and saying, let's do this out in the open.
What he wants to do is put it up in front of the cameras, make it all razzle-dazzle, make it a moment, because we know, you know what these politicians do, including these guys, they love the cameras. They do. They need their moment in the sun, because if you get another moment, you get another book. That's how it works. Another book no one reads.
The reason that John Brennan was referred for criminal prosecution by Jim Jordan this week was because of things he said in a transcribed interview. If it were before Congress, where you have members of Congress you've never heard of trying to make a name for themselves, shouting at a witness on the stand, you don't normally get to the substance of stuff. Yeah. You don't get in the nitty-gritty, the timelines, where you find out the real facts. And that's what I think Jim Jordan was wanting to do. We even said that. Yeah. I like that they were not saying, you're coming before Congress in an open hearing and we're going to find out and get to the bottom of this. He was doing real investigative accountability oversight work by calling him in for a transcribed interview. I think it's extremely smart of the attorneys for Jack Smith and Jack Smith himself to ask for this to be an open hearing. Also, he's getting ahead of this by sending it to Chuck Grassley as well, because the request came from Jim Jordan. But he says right at the front, we have received Jim Jordan's October 14th letter and are aware of Chairman Grassley's interest in testimony from our client as well. So already getting ahead of it, trying to show to people that, look, we're willing to talk. We'll do this. We'll even do it in the open. We're not afraid. But in reality, they know what those turn into. And they know that with also this big list of requests, these are the type of things you would negotiate out in that transcribe interview format. Like, hey, here's what we need from DOJ. Here's the assurances we need. But they're putting all that in the open. It's a faux transparency really to throw people off and be like, look, he's got nothing to hide.
If in theory, it worked how it should work. And these events, like you say, don't become just one person being yelled at or being able to really avoid the questions. Yes, in theory, this is the way that it should be done. I believe a lot of this should be transparent in front of the American people. You also don't have to worry about not understanding the tone. You can't be taken really out of context because everyone's heard it. You know what they're saying. It's like, a text message will never be as clear as a phone call. However, it's just simply not what we live in. It's not the reality we live in. So while, yes, the broadcaster in me and the curious American in me wants to see it happen in front of the public, I understand why it shouldn't. However, that should be something we need to look at getting better at as well. Maybe electing better officials. So in these big hearings, it's not all grandstanding. That things can happen in front of the American people and not turned into everyone gets their minute for their ad later on, for their soundbite that they can put in a commercial to hopefully get reelected. We live in this constant cycle that sadly, we have to now fight back against these things happening in public. That sounds ridiculous. It feels like we should be able to say, have all of this out to where the American people can see it. You work for us, it's not the other way around. However, again, that's not the way things are.
I agree with you. I think there is benefit to public hearings. I think that there is benefit to sunlight on the process. I do have concerns, though, if this is the end of it, do it in public. If they are genuinely looking for accountability, I think have the hearing behind closed doors and get that out there. Maybe do both. They can do both. They can do a portion before the committee in open session, and then they can take it for further interview behind closed doors. So I think that maybe that could be a way forward, because it is something the American people are interested in. It was even questionable whether or not that Jack Smith and the Office of Special Counsel is constitutional. So there are a lot of questions around this, and Congress can make adjustments and legislation in their oversight to even go beyond these individuals to make sure this never happens again. And I think that's just as important as accountability if there was malfeasance and criminality that may have arisen out of some of these investigations.